All right, so today we are diving deep into the world of dancehall music
Oh, right.
with a name that I'm sure a lot of you might recognize, Vybz Kartel.
Yeah.
And even if you don't recognize the name, you're in for a ride with this deep dive,
For sure, for sure.
because this is a story full of twists and turns. And yeah, so if you're already into dancehall,
Yeah.
you know that Vybz Kartel is a titan in the industry,
Absolutely.
global influence.
Yeah.
But there's more to him than just the catchy tracks, you
Yeah.
know. There's legal battles, there's prison time, and through it all,
Yeah.
the impact never faded. It's really interesting. So it's like we're also going to get like a crash course in Jamaican culture, social
Yeah.
dynamics, even economics, if you remember those Clark shoe frenzies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Cartel's career is really a reflection, I think, of Jamaica's heartbeat, both the highs and the lows. But to really kind of grasp why he resonates, I think we got to rewind a little bit.
Okay.
Back to 1993 when he's just a teenager bursting onto the scene.
A teenager.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So back then he was actually known as Adi Banton, even kind of paying homage to Buju Banton with that name, released a track called Love Fat Woman early on. But yeah, it's a common thread you see in dancehall, this early start, and it speaks to, I think, the limited opportunities that are available, the realities that a lot of these artists face.
Right. So it's almost like this direct line from the streets to the sound system.
Yeah,
You know, raw talent meets ambition.
absolutely.
But it wasn't, an easy road,
Mhm.
right? Like it was a fight to be heard.
Right.
I'd heard like whispers of like some pretty intense early clashes in Cartel's career.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the early days were a pressure cooker, you know.
Right.
Dancehall in the 90s was all about proving yourself, and there was that infamous clash with Ninja Men, another huge name at Sting.
Okay, now for those of us who aren't lucky enough to like be in the know,
Yeah.
what makes Sting so legendary?
So imagine the Super Bowl of dancehall.
Okay.
Right? You've got massive energy, you've got surprise guests, and yeah, sometimes things get a little heated. That's one way to put it.
Oh.
That clash with Ninjamin, let's just say it involved more than just lyrical sparring.
Whoa, things got physical.
Yeah, it was a different time back then, much more raw, unfiltered. And of course, we don't condone the violence,
Of course.
but it illustrates the stakes.
Right.
This wasn't just music, it was a battleground.
Wow.
And that intensity, well, it didn't stop there. You mentioned Cartel's feud with Movado, and that went way beyond a diss track or two.
It almost became part of the social fabric, right? With Gaza versus Gully. It was influencing how people dressed, how they acted. What was it about that rivalry that sparked such intense division?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It tapped into something deeper, something resonating with Jamaica's existing kind of social fault lines.
Wow.
You know, there was an element of class, there was an element of opportunity, even geographic loyalties all at play.
Wow.
And these weren't just artists, they were figureheads, almost like modern day folk heroes in a way, giving voice to these tensions that were already bubbling under the surface.
Right.
And when those voices clash, will echo through everything. Yeah.
Got so intense that even the government couldn't ignore it.
Wait, seriously, the government got involved in a musical feud?
They had to, the prime minister himself stepped in trying to broker peace between Cartel and Movado.
Wow.
Think about that. A musical rivalry reaching the highest levels of government.
That's wild.
Shows you how deeply ingrained this was in Jamaican society.
Wow.
But while all this is exploding locally, Vybz Kartel was about to make moves that would put him on the world map.
Okay, so we've got this backdrop, you know, of raw talent, fierce competition, these deep-seated social dynamics, and then Cartel drops these tunes that catapult him onto the global stage, talking Rompin' Shop Clarks.
Yeah.
Songs that transcended borders and genres.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about a pivotal moment for dance halls, I think, with those tracks, Romping Shop, cracking the Billboard charts, no small feat for the genre. And then Clark's, I mean, that wasn't just a song. That was a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, it really was.
Suddenly, everybody had to have those shoes. It was wild. I remember thinking, like, did Vybz Kartel just single-handedly revive a shoe brand?
Right.
Talk about economic impact?
Absolutely.
And you're right, it wasn't just the shoes. I mean, even Drake was citing him as an influence.
Yeah.
Like dancehall was having a moment in the global spotlight. Back in Jamaica, wasn't there also some controversy brewing alongside this success?
Yeah.
Something about his lyrics. Right?
You've got a keen eye. Cartel's lyrics were always kind of walking that line, pushing boundaries, especially when it came to sexuality and depictions of violence.
Right.
And it sparked these really heated debates about censorship, cultural context, and artists' responsibility.
It's always such a complex conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's like, on the one hand, freedom of expression,
Right.
but on the other hand, the potential impact of those words.
Exactly. And it's worth noting, I think, that Kartel often used that controversy, to craft his image, that bad boy persona, love him or hate him. It undeniably played a role in his ascent.
Yeah, for sure.
But then just as he's reaching these new heights, everything changes.
Right. 2014, the arrest, the murder conviction, a life sentence. It's almost Shakespearean.
It's hard to imagine a more dramatic turn.
Right.
1 minute, you're a global icon. The next, you're facing decades behind bars.
Yeah.
You'd think that would be the final chapter, but it's not even close to over.
No.
In fact, this is where things get truly mind-boggling.
Right.
Because he's imprisoned.
Yeah.
Yet new Vybz Kartel tracks are dropping regularly.
It's wild.
What's
It
that?
was unprecedented. Like, he'd found a way to break the laws of physics, not just the legal kind.
Right.
High-quality recordings.
Right.
Seemingly from, like, a professional studio. Prison?
Yeah.
Officials denied any involvement. Kartel himself stayed mum on the process.
Wow.
It only fueled the intrigue.
Right.
Fans were going wild. Authorities were baffled.
It's like something out of a movie.
Yeah,
But the music kept coming, and more importantly, people connected with it.
he did.
That album, King of the Dancehall, released while he was incarcerated, that's a testament to his staying power. I think so. It really makes you think. You have this man who's been stripped of his freedom, yet his voice somehow is more powerful than ever.
Right.
Was it defiance? Was it a way to maintain control despite his circumstances?
Right.
It really challenged, I think, everything we thought we knew about the relationship between an artist, their art, and their audience.
Yeah. It really throws a wrench in the idea that you can just silence someone's voice by locking them up.
Right.
But then another plot twist.
Right.
2024, the conviction is overturned.
Yeah, after more than a decade behind bars, the highest court of appeal cites juror misconduct, casting a shadow over that original trial.
True.
Talk about a legal roller coaster.
Seriously.
This wasn't just a news story. It was a national conversation. Everybody had an opinion.
It was massive. Right. And then it's like, okay, what happens now?
Right, because
Are they going to try to put this case back together after all this time?
Exactly. It was uncharted territory. I mean, ultimately, they decided against a retrial. The cost, the time that had passed, even Kartel's health had deteriorated while he was in prison. It all factored in.
Wow.
And just like that, after serving over a decade for a crime he was no longer convicted of, Vybz Kartel was a free man.
This year, it's almost, like you said, it's Shakespearean. It's hard to wrap your head around it.
I know.
So we're left with this legacy that's already like the stuff of legend, like meteoric rise, fierce rivalries, pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
imprisonment, making music in the shadows.
Right.
And now this unexpected freedom, like, where does he even go from here?
It's the question, isn't it?
Right.
And we talked about, Kartel mirroring Jamaica in a lot of ways. And I think now, more than ever, that mirrors reflecting back some really tough questions.
Yeah.
What does forgiveness look like in the face of such a controversial figure? Can you separate the art from the artist, especially when that artist is so deeply entwined with his past?
And musically, does he lean into that past or try to reinvent himself?
Right. Will that resonate?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so fascinating because you think about it, silence, confinement, it didn't stop his voice from being heard.
Right.
But freedom that brings its own unique pressures.
For sure.
Will this experience change his sound, his message, or does the world still crave that Gaza energy even after all this time?
It's almost impossible to predict.
Yeah.
But whatever he does, the world's going to be listening, dissecting every lyric, every beat.
Absolutely.
Vybz Kartel's story has always been about more than just the music. It's about social dynamics, justice, resilience, and now it feels like it's a crash course in second chances.
It does.
Maybe that's the real deep dive here.
Yeah.
It's not just into one man's career, but into ourselves.
Right.
Like, what do we